Greetings. I am Dorothy Dowling, a principal of DEI Advisors. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to personal empowerment. I am delighted to welcome Tim Hentschel, co-founder and CEO of HotelPlanner, to our DEI show. Tim, welcome to our show. It is such an honor to have you with us today.
Thank you, Dorothy, for having me. Such an honor to be here.
Tim, you are a dedicated entrepreneur who bootstrapped your company with your co-founder, John Prince, beginning in 2003. I'm wondering if you would mind sharing your career journey as an entrepreneur and the learnings you've had in building your business and advancing your leadership journey.
Sure. So, entrepreneurship started 20 years ago for us when we founded the company back in 2003. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur when I was working my way up in the industry, started doing jobs like busboy, dishwasher, if you name it in the hotel and restaurant. I've probably done it, front desk, night audit. All those jobs started at age of 14. And so, with that experience, I ended up at the Cornell Hotel School, and I took that in minor in the computer science classes in the engineering school. And at that time, Priceline was taking off, and Expedia, Hotels.com, other big name online travel agencies at the time were big in 2000, 2001. So as soon as I graduated, I wanted to jump into the entrepreneurship route, and I knew I wanted to be in hotel travel tech. And so HotelPlanner was basically born with me and a business partner, John Prince, who came from a different but similar background. I was from the West Coast, going to school out east. He was from Maine, so he's East Coast, and he took a degree in computer science, then moved out to the West because he wanted to get away from, the hot, humid summers and get to the beaches of California. And so the two of us started the company back in 2003 in San Diego.
I remember visiting your offices there, Tim, and I even at that time I knew that you were going to be an incredibly successful entrepreneur just with your dedication and passion that you brought to the industry and the innovation. You were constantly innovating in terms of thought leadership. So I'm really proud of the kind of success that you've had and the way you paved the way for others. I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about partnerships, because one of the things that I have really admired about you, Tim, over the years is that you have really helped partners provide a more comprehensive solution to their customers. And you have built a platform, you have helped others integrate that platform into their suite of solution. And I know I've read a lot of your commentary that you have published in other areas, but your approach of being that expert in the group space and supporting your customers with your expertise has made you such a trusted and valued partner. And I have always valued, because I've had a front row seat in watching you and the way you listen to your customers, the way you solve their needs incredibly quickly and effectively. And I know that I read that your personal mantra is being an expert and acting like one. So I'm hoping you can elaborate a little bit on this mindset as how this has really powered you, your success, and being part of your core business values.
Yeah, so at Hotel Planner, we consider ourselves a hotel technology platform. So hotel and technology being independent words. Bruce Rosenberg at our company, who's our chief operations officer, and we were lucky enough to recruit him after 15 years of executive vice president at Hilton Corp for e-commerce. And so with my extensive background in the hotel industry, his extensive background in the hotel industry, and then a technologist like John Prince, who's top of his class in computer science, and then worked for IBM as a senior software engineer, as well as Capital One, and rebuilt their system into .NET. We want experts. And so right now we're emerging into the AI space, and we took on an AI expert into the company and actually gave him, some equity as well. So the more expertise we can get, the better the solution we can build is, and that will hopefully give us product that's viral, that people want to partner up with. and longevity, like we've had 20 years, celebrating our 20-year anniversary, says a lot because so many tech comes and goes. You know, there was Friendsters, and then there was MySpace, and now there's Facebook, and Facebook's kind of being replaced by Instagram. Luckily, Zuckerberg was smart enough to see the future and buy his competition, so he could phase himself out. But you know, so many products come and go in our space. So to continue to reinvent through that expertise is really important to us, so that we stay you know, relevant, basically, which is a hard space to stay relevant in both hotels and in technology these days.
Well, and I totally agree with you, Tim. And I do think that investment in terms of your learning and really building out that expertise and competency is something that's truly valued by partners. And the part that I was always incredibly impressed with over the years was just your speed to market. When a customer articulated a need, it was the speed that you're able to really respond to their needs and support them. And you did that better than anyone else that I have ever had the honor of working with. So
Well,
again,
thank you.
congratulations.
I have to credit more John Prince and Bruce Rosenberg for that. John has best handpicked technology team that he put together. Everything is done in house, and then with Bruce on the operations side that understands hotels and their needs from bottom up. You know, they can put together a product and get it out to market very quickly. You know, obviously in the early days, I was very responsible for that too, because luckily I have from a very young age a lot of hands-on experience too, which if I could give any advice to entrepreneurs before you start something in the industry, have that. I mean, I can't tell you how many people approach me for funding on an idea, and you know, sounds okay, and then I get to know their background, and it's just say, you know, they want to get into hotel travel tech, and currently they are a you know, in the construction industry, and they're a builder, plumbing, and I started to think, well, then build something around an app around plumbing construction, something that you know, and that you know inside and out, that you can show people what the advantages are of that, because to not have that expertise, to just jump into a new field and then want to build tech around that is very difficult,
Yeah.
if next to impossible.
Well, I think that depth of your industry knowledge really has been incredibly valuable to your partners. There was something that you said in a recent interview that really struck me, because it was one of your leadership tips that you had provided, and it was about choosing your battles wisely. And I think you said some people may irk you, but getting into a fight with them could cost you. And I have to say, I really love this advice, because I certainly share that perspective in playing the long game and really being thoughtful about deploying one's personal capital. But I'm wondering how you can share how this perspective has really shaped your business success, because you work with a lot of individuals, and I'm sure many have irked you over time, but you have managed to prevail.
Hmm. Yes, but I feel like you know just as much about that stoicism as I do, because nothing's got to be more difficult than working through, you know, a corporate chain on a global level to get to the tippity top, because you've got it coming from the side, from, you know, the bottom, from the top, all the time, and everybody wants you know, to come after you. It seems, or at least it seems like that. I actually give you more credit than I deserve, because luckily, you know, as an entrepreneur and a major, you know, shareholder in the company, at the end of the day, you know, I can kind of pick who I have to interact with. I think I have more respect for people who are in a corporate environment, and then, you know, they don't have that say, but they have to, you know, get in there and do the work every day that the corporation demands. And they don't exactly get to pick their entire team, you know.
Well, that is true, Tim, and I appreciate you sharing that. I just think it is a particularly wise piece of advice, because when that likability factor to me has always been an important part of success, and people that like you they tend to go out of their way to support you. And I think you have done a lot in that space in terms of many of us have always wanted to work with you because you have made that investment in your relationships with others.
Well, keeping it humble is
yeah.
a big part of that stoicism too, and a big
Yes.
success for both, entrepreneurs and corporate career oriented business people. I mean, just recently, when you're talking about what's going on in our industry, there seems to be clashes quite often, as you know. And the biggest one that hit the news is right now is Hopper and Expedia. And I have to say that Hopper has a few strings of successes, and I think they got very aggressive about letting everybody know like how big they are. And I think they forgot, that partners are responsible for that. And so we know, how that has ended up. So then we just have to remind ourselves, like, you might feel big and you might have a string of successes, but there's always somebody bigger, and you got to respect the space that they've earned and be humble. And that's what I try to be, as much as possible. And I know that I probably may not even like have that reputation, but it is something that I think about and try to work on. And then I think it does resonate in our company. And I think that's why people like to work with us quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't normally name names, but to the audience that will see this, everybody will know who we're talking about anyways, because we all get the same news wires. And that is the hottest thing, I would say, that's going on in the industry right now. But then if you go back, you remember, the chain OTA fights, remember, the mid 2000s, where it was the big hotel chains versus the two big OTAs. And then again, stoicism played out, right? Nobody really lost their heads, and everybody, got along, and eventually it all worked itself out. So I think that typically does happen in our industry quite a bit. That, it's hospitality at the end of the day. So people do want to find common ground and work together quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tim. And I think a lot of that surfaced through the pandemic, where people really did find mutual ways to support the industry in a powerful way, so that we could all survive and see the future as we are today. I'm wondering if I can move a little bit on to your global investment, because I think you have taken some really interesting career risks in terms of your moves around the world. And, for me, Tim, I mean, you've got a young family, you've done this very courageously in terms of building your business. I'm sure it has been part of you shaping your own development and your own strategy in terms of your future. But I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about your thought process around that and how you navigated it, because those were big changes that you chose to make.
Yeah. So, ESG, environmental social governance, has been a hot topic for the last 5-6 years, and I think it's only getting stronger, and resonating more. As you know, we almost went public. We have aspirations of being a publicly traded company. So ESG, is more important to us than maybe most companies. So, then when I think about the social aspect of it, the DEI side, in our industry, Dorothy, as you probably mentioned, the D and the DEI, the diversity side is probably pretty easy, because, it's a global industry. So we naturally attract the best talent from all around the world. And our workforce skews more female than male, typically in the travel industry, like other diverse industries, like the fashion industry or media industry. Hospitality has some of that same DNA, especially when it's got the creative side around boutique hotels, and then the creative side around distribution, selling and marketing hotels. So, that part, comes a bit naturally. And, the equity is something that, is a little bit tougher because the internet is naturally not an equitable place. Most people have mapped this, that the money and the traffic all flow to the top, 0.1% of websites, out there. And that concentration of wealth and power gets into a smaller and smaller number of hands, it seems, every year as the big get bigger and bigger and bigger. So, we're not the biggest, obviously, going back to the humble part. What we've always done well is developing custom tools that people, want to use and want to partner up on. So where we feel like we can add value to the equity side is through what we just did with the gig call center, first of its kind gig call center. For people that aren't really familiar with call centers in the travel industry, OTAs, the majority of, if you pick up the phone and want to make a reservation over the phone, that reservation is going to be transferred to a call center out of Mexico, India, or the Philippines. The problem with that model is, less than 10 cents of every dollar that OTA is spending for that call center actually gets to the agent. So with our gig, first of its kind gig powered call center, cloud-based call center, I should say, we completely eliminated the middleman in that. So, typically you would pay between $12 to $14 an hour for call answering services for reservations. And then only, $1.50 or $2 of that is actually getting to the agent. With our gig system, the top agents are making between $20 to $30 an hour. And basically we rev share with the call center agents, and they work whatever hours they want. And that allows us to transfer that money directly to the agents on a local basis. That's very revolutionary for the internet, because with the internet, it typically, takes money off of the main street, right? Like, it's not known to support small businesses on the high street. And with this, anybody can become an agent. It's all VoIP activated. You can do it without prior travel knowledge. We actually have tied in the VoIP into ChatGPT and Bard. And so when questions are asked, it automatically feeds into the AI, and then, responses are pushed back with our data fed into ChatGPT. So the information comes up really rapidly. So we can make somebody who has no travel experience an expert very, very quickly. So that's what we're, really focusing on, what we call augmented intelligence, artificial intelligence with human intelligence, and making it stronger and more effective for agents to be more successful quicker. And so we have done some studies, and our gig call center converts at 30% higher rates for reservations. And so that's, I think, one of the ways that we're, building out a company that's giving back and bridging that equity gap. Mm-hmm. We also want to pledge $10 million over the next few years to building out sponsorships in communities. With meetings.com, our other brand, before COVID hit, we acquired a couple companies, and we were looking to expand out to looking for venues outside of hotels. So people wanted sleeping rooms in hotels, obviously for the convenience of all the amenities a hotel has to offer. But as you probably know, conference space and food and beverage space at a hotel is nice for one night. It's very standard across most, product too. So when you get outside of the hotel, there's just this world of all this unique venues and product that can be out, life for parties and events and everything else. And so we want to build that out. We want to sponsor, these different venues and community centers. Communities as part of, again, bridging that equity gap and giving back more to the community. So those are some things that we're working on as a smaller company that doesn't have the budgets that, big tech has, but, we can all do our part. That's what the part we want to play is in the next few years.
Well, and I think those are remarkable ways of using your subject matter expertise, Tim, and really thinking about how to be a change agent in supporting whatever this new generation of how we're going to respond to labor's needs and really think about employees and teammates in a different way. So I really commend you on that. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit more about your personal decisions, because you took your family to London from the US, and you went to Singapore, and then you come back to London. Those are pretty significant moves that you have made. I know part of that has been your learning journey and supporting your company's growth. But I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about how you made those decisions and what some of the learnings through that process was for you.
Sure. So in 2010, we took on a massive group partner, largest online travel agency in the world, to exclusively power their group hotel bookings. And we needed to then expand into the international market, which we didn't have one. And so being an entrepreneur, basically volunteered my family to move to London to, start the first office. And then from that growth, we wanted to expand into Asia. So then, the move to Singapore made sense. And now is looking back to more centralize, the operations and, 2 locations. I came back to London, and now we're splitting the executive team between our London headquarters and our West Palm Beach, Florida headquarters. And it's working really well for us. It was a little tough in Singapore. It's a very different time zone than the West. And so that kind of made it difficult, even though we did do a roadshow for IPO on NASDAQ with me working mainly from the hours of 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. in the morning. So it's okay. I'm a night auditor back in the day. So I'm used to working those hours. So it worked out.
Well, I think it's amazing experience that you've also afforded your children to live in different parts of the world and experience cultures firsthand. So again, I think that just is
I really enjoyed my
shaping.
time in the UK. Yeah. And I mean, you're from Canada, so we're basically just, 3 of the same countries when it really boils down to it. You feel very comfortable in any. We share almost the same laws. So it doesn't take much to get up to speed in all 3 countries. And it's the fact that we all immigrate back and forth all the time, between all 3 countries.
Well said. I think that does speak to your flexibility, though, to be able to manage through all of not just the time zones, but there are cultural nuances that I think you have managed extremely well. I'm just wondering if we can talk a little bit about challenges and adversity, because our industry obviously goes through lots of ups and downs, and you bootstrapped your business. And I know in one of the articles that I read that you did for Entrepreneur Magazine, you really spoke to individual entrepreneurs and making sure they have enough cash flow to be able to fund their business during their startup days. So I'm just wondering if you can add any more context in terms of that leadership advice, in terms of how you have supported your own business, because you and John really took some big bets early on, and you put a lot of sweat equity in terms of really shaping HotelPlanner.
Yes. So I'm a big proponent of bootstrapping and keeping the equity in the founder's hands. Then the founder can truly execute their vision. And I know I'm one of many people that say this on social media and in print when it comes to entrepreneurship, because the huge rise of private equity, which is basically only been around for the last 20 years to the size it is now. And, now it's funded upward to $1 trillion because pension funds and 401k money, sovereign money is now equally in the stock market is in alternative investments, which, the pre-PE and the VC market fall into that. Has caused this entire current generation of entrepreneurs to think that entrepreneurship is synonymous with raising money from banks, from funds. And then it means that the entrepreneur is spending more time raising money and talking to banks and giving a pitch than actually working on the product. So much so that, it's led to fraud. I mean, when you look at Theranos, sorry. Had Elizabeth Holmes been spending more time in the office maybe and just working on the product, she wouldn't have had to make claims about the product that weren't there, because her main focus was just raising money. Maybe it's the attitude that you have to run before you walk. I mean, we're a 20-year-old company, and some of the criticism from the financial industry is, why didn't you grow faster? It's, well, to build a grassroots company with 50,000 individual membered hotels that log into a system, that was built from the ground up, that specifically does, group hotel rates, takes the effort of signing up each hotel one by one. So that takes time, and it's worth it. I think it's worth the effort, because then you own, the equity, which also means you can own the future vision. One of the tough things with the entrepreneurs is they spend, majority of their time raising the money, and then they spend the other majority of their time fighting the money that they raise, because so many entrepreneurs we talk to are looking to get out of their funding situation and want to be, bought by like a company like ours, to be taken on by owner operators again, instead of funds. So, yeah, I think if, Richard Branson was born 30 years later, would we have a Richard Branson? I can't think of a modern equivalent to him, because he built and bootstrapped his company, which allowed him to take risks and, crazy marketing stunts that you just don't see anymore, because it's not possible in today's funded world. I'm not as wild as Richard Branson. I'm not jumping out of hot air balloons and all of that. I wish I had his creative genius when it comes to, sparking that kind of how do you say it, like memorable moments and things like that. I think I'm probably a little bit more traditional than that, but you know what? I'm stick to the fundamentals, and do the fundamentals better is what I like to live by. Just every day doing something a little bit better than the day before. And, that has brought me success in other ways. Not it's probably as a rapid growth as Richard Branson had, but the solid growth, like to have a solid base where, the company is the best it's ever been. The balance sheet is the best it's ever been. So, that's a great place. And we've been through several ups and downs in the industry, as you know, in the last 20 years. So that's seen a lot.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, Tim. And I do think that you have done some pretty amazing things in terms of your dedication, your passion, and your purpose. You have been very true to what you wanted to be. And that bootstrapping financial acumen, I think, has allowed you to be successful in ways that are very admirable. We're coming up to the end of our interview, and we always ask every DEI advisor if there is any final piece of advice in terms of the tagline, empowering personal success, that you would like to offer to our audience. So is there anything further you would like to add?
Well, I mainly just reiterate the point that I made earlier, which is I really would like to see ESG and DEI adapted to each company's size and abilities, and so that they can put their own creative mark on it. I feel that it's more, sustainable that way. I mean, if you look at how Facebook took over, knocked MySpace off its perch, which was supposed to be impossible because of the moat theory, right? They had 100 million members when Facebook was only, a few 100,000 college students. But Facebook opened its operating system up to builders who could build applications around it. And you had games like Farmville, which brought a whole new, person to the site that left MySpace to come over to Facebook. I think for ESG and DEI to be as successful as possible, it needs to be more open, not just a box check to that. We want more creative solutions and people to put their personal mark on it, and then I think it'll be much more successful and grow faster. If people are allowed to do that with it. So not so much just the rigid rules that have kind of been pushed through on this. What can people do? That they have a unique skill set to bring to the table. That's what I basically like to see.
Well, what I would thank you for, Tim, is always giving time to the industry, for always sharing your thought leadership. And I'm very confident that the kind of change agent that you have been in our industry thus far, that if you bring that power of your thought leadership to how DE&I can be transformed, that we're all going to be better for it. I'm really confident that your generation is the one that is going to transform the equity and the diversity in the way we go to market. So I'm grateful that you shared your wisdom with us today. It's always an honor to be in your company. And I really thank you for joining the DEI advisor community.
Well, thank you so much, Dorothy. Thank you for having
Yeah.
me. It's been fun. Thank you.
Of course. And if I may, for our audience, if you've enjoyed this interview, please visit us on our website, deiadvisors.org, where you will see other webcasts and podcasts of other industry leaders like Tim that will empower your knowledge and fuel your spirit. I hope to see you there. Thank you again, Tim.
Thank you.